guys, Jason here with the Magma Chamber, and today we are doing an album ranking for the Godfathers of Heavy Metal, Black Sabbath. So it's easy to say that Black Sabbath are basically the ones that started heavy metal. I mean, sure, they were influenced by other bands as well that came up before them, but Black Sabbath was the first band to really take it to a dark, evil place on their first album with the first song. We'll get to that in a little bit, but and what some people may not know is that Black Sabbath is more than just Ozzy Osbourne. They had other singers as well. Some people aren't willing to accept Black Sabbath without Ozzy, but we're going to talk about those other albums today as well because they are absolutely worth talking about. So if you're an Ozzy diehard and that's the only Black Sabbath for you, hopefully this will kind of pique your interest to go check out some of these other albums because I really think that you should. So as we go into it, we're going to talk about all of their albums. There's 20 of them total. There's one that's not called Black Sabbath, but we're going to talk about that one as well. I feel like that one should be included as well. So they have a long history, lots of lineup changes. So we're not going to talk about every single piece of their history. We're just going to kind of talk about the albums that kind of go along here. So personally, my first real exposure to Black Sabbath, of course you hear the hits, you know, Paranoid, Iron Man, those kinds of songs here and there. But the first thing that I bought years ago that was Black Sabbath related was a tribute album called Nativity in Black. This came out in 1994 on Columbia Records. Features some great songs on here, some great bands, Biohazard doing After Forever, White Zombie, Children of the Grave, Megadeth, Paranoid, 1000 Homo DJs, which is actually Ministry, it's Al Jurgensen, but call themselves 1000 Homo DJs on this. They do Supernaut, Ozzy Osbourne with Therapy, Corrosion of Conformity, Sepultura, Bullring Brummies, which is actually Black Sabbath, but with Rob Halford on vocals. They do The Wizard, Bruce Dickinson with Godspeed, Ugly Kid Joe. You wouldn't think they would be on an album like this, but they do NIB and do a great job. Live version of War Pigs from Faith No More, and Typo Negative doing Black Sabbath, the title track. So this was a great compilation. I used to listen to this thing all the time. I wore it out. I don't know how easy this is to find now, but if you're a Black Sabbath fan or a fan of any of the bands that I mentioned on here, they do, every song on here is great. A few years later, they did do Nativity in Black 2. It wasn't really as good. Some of the bands kind of, I feel like, screwed the pooch on some of their renditions, but this one right here is good. A little bit of trivia behind this as well. Pantera's Planet Caravan was actually recorded for this compilation, but there were some label problems or something, so Pantera said, hey, well, we got Planet Caravan, we'll just stick it on the end of Far Beyond Driven, which came out the same year. So yeah, it was actually recorded for this, and they just stuck it on the end of Far Beyond Driven. So very cool. This is awesome if you haven't checked that out. But we're going to go in and we're going to start at number 20 on my personal list. We're going to go with 1995's Forbidden. So Forbidden, if you've never heard of it before, I mean, it was kind of a, I think a lot of people have this at the bottom of their list. You had Tony Martin on vocals. Tony Martin's an incredible vocalist. I feel like he should really be more popular than he is because he deserves every bit of attention that he can get, and did an excellent job with Black Sabbath. Forbidden, this one kind of has some controversy on it because Ice-T appears on a couple of tracks, and people are like, oh, there's some rapper involved, and they shouldn't be involved with Black Sabbath and all that. But I was an Ice-T fan before I was a Black Sabbath fan. I mean, Ice-T's awesome. He is a metalhead. He's got Body Count, which is an incredible band. I have nothing but respect for Ice-T. As far as him showing up in a Black Sabbath track, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it doesn't really fit that well. But Ice-T, I mean, on his first album, he sampled War Pigs. And he sampled Black Sabbath on several of his other songs as well. So it's not like he's some poser and he's just some imposter to heavy metal. The man knows what he's doing. So I've got nothing but respect for Ice-T. But another Body Count member, Ernie C, produced the record. Maybe the production isn't the best in the world, but it isn't horrible. I have this one at the bottom just because I didn't really feel like the songs really stuck that much. I mean, it is kind of, you know, it is a little bit lackluster. It's not terrible. It's worth checking out, but you know, I won't go over the songs or whatever, but it's kind of at the bottom of my list. It didn't really stick with me that much, but we're going to go with Forbidden at number 20. So at number 19, we're going to go with Seventh Star from 1986. Seventh Star featured Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple on vocals. He's an amazing singer. The thing is about this album is originally it was going to be a Tony Iommi solo record, but of course, you know, when you get the label involved, they're like, well, nobody's going to buy a Tony Iommi solo record, so we got to put the Black Sabbath name on it so it'll sell. So Tony did it, so when you look at the title of it, it's Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, but Tony Iommi is Black Sabbath. I mean, it's not Ozzy, it's not Dio, it's not any of the other guys. Black Sabbath is Tony Iommi. He's the only person that has played on every Sabbath album, and even when things were not going good for the band, people weren't buying their records, the man stuck to it and kept rolling. So I feel like, you know, it is more of a Tony Iommi solo record. It doesn't seem very Sabbathy to me, but you've got Tony's playing, you know his sound when you hear it. But Glenn Hughes does an excellent job on vocals here. I kind of almost hear some R&B in some sections on here. I don't know if it's Glenn Hughes' voice, because there's a couple of ballads on here, and there's nothing terrible on here. It's actually pretty good. It's just not one that I would revisit very much. But Seventh Star at number 19, 1986. So at number 18, I have an album that has kind of grown in popularity. I think there's been a little bit more attention brought to this album in recent years, and there are a lot of people like, hey, you know, this is actually pretty good. For me, I have it down a little bit low. I think it needs to grow on me a little more, but that is 1983's Born Again. This one features Ian Gillan from Deep Purple on vocals. I think the problem that I have with it is the production is just really raw. I think that recently they found the original master tape, so I don't know if they're going to do anything with that as far as remixing it, but I feel like it could use that attention and make it a little bit easier to listen to. But there are some great songs. It's a heavy record. It just seems very kind of thrown together a little bit, and I think that's kind of some of the charm behind the record. Features Zero the Hero is a big song. Cannibal Corpse actually covered that song on the Hammer Smash Face EP. Some other great songs. I just don't feel like it's Sabbath at their best, but you know, I know that there's some other people that actually have this ranked a little bit higher, so maybe it'll grow on me, and you know, the more I listen to it. But so number 17, we have 1976 Technical Ecstasy. This album here is one that I've kind of struggled with, actually. I feel like it's a good album. I just don't feel like it's very, I don't know, I almost feel like that some of their Beatles influence kind of worked their way into this record. It's not as dark, it's not as heavy. The album that came out before this, Sabotage, which we'll talk about in a little bit, it was right before this, and Sabotage was a pretty aggressive, heavy album, and this was kind of just a complete change in direction. Backstreet Kids, the beginning of You Won't Change Me has kind of a doomy section to it, so it is a little bit Sabbathy. It's Alright features Bill Ward on vocals, and he's actually not bad, not a bad tune. All Moving Parts Stand Still, I like that one. Rock and Roll Doctor is pretty good. And then the last track, Dirty Women, is actually a really good song. I do like that one. It's my favorite song on the album, but for me it's just not as strong as some of the albums that came before it. So as far as the Ozzy albums, this is the one that I have ranked at the bottom. So that's Technical Ecstasy at number 17. Okay, so the next record I'm going to talk about is not under the name Black Sabbath. It's under the name Heaven and Hell. But I'm including this here because it's basically the Dio Era lineup on this. So this was the last album to feature Ronnie James Dio on vocals. This came out after they reunited after so many years of playing together, and I was actually able to see them perform together on not this tour, but the tour they did before it. They reunited and put together a compilation, Black Sabbath, the Dio years, and I saw them on that tour in Dallas, and it was amazing. I feel very fortunate to have been able to see Ronnie James Dio performed with Black Sabbath before he passed away. And he was such a great frontman. I mean, he's a little bitty guy, but man, he just had the crowd in his hand. He was going back and forth and smiling at the crowd and shooting the horns, and he was just a great frontman. Never cussed the whole time he was on stage. He was just a complete gentleman. And even at his age, you know, that close to when he passed, he sounded amazing. You know, I can't say that for other vocalists. But he was amazing, and I feel very fortunate to be able to have seen them. But this album here, Heaven and Hell, you know, they couldn't call themselves Black Sabbath because Sharon, so which is okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with them calling themselves Heaven and Hell. But this album here, I feel like is the heaviest album that they ever did. I mean, as far as heavy and dark, I mean, this is a doom album. Most of the songs on here are very slow and you know, it's doom. There's not a lot of fast moments on here. It is really good. The whole band sounds great. I have this one ranked a little bit lower simply because I feel like it is such a slow plodding album, and when you have 10 songs and it's, you know, it's not a short album, it does become a little bit sluggish. And there are a couple of faster tracks on here, but I feel like it could have used just a little bit more faster pace in a few areas. But it's a great song. Fear, Bible Black, Double the Pain. I mean, it's got some of Iommi's heaviest riffs on here, but this is a very dark, heavy album, and I feel like, once again, probably the heaviest thing I feel like in Black Sabbath's discography. So don't ignore this record. It's awesome. Check out Heaven and Hell, The Devil You Know. And I have that at number 16. At number 15, I have the very last Black Sabbath period record with 13. So, you know, I think I was looking forward to this just as much as any other Sabbath fan. They were back with Ozzy, and this is the last album to feature, well, any of those guys. This came out in 2013. I guess that's why they called it 13. It wasn't their 13th album, but 13 nonetheless. This edition has a bonus disc with 4 extra tracks on it, which I feel like probably would have been better off in the main track listing in place of some other songs. I like this record, but I feel like it's kind of, I think for the first time they kind of repeated themselves. It's definitely throwback to the first couple of records, early Ozzy era. It's kind of, I think it kind of gives people what they wanted, and I don't know if that's always such a good thing. There's not a lot of experimentation. You know, Zeitgeist, it sounds like Planet Caravan. You know, End of the Beginning sounds like the title track, Black Sabbath. You know, same with God Is Dead. So, you know, I don't know. It's good, but maybe a little repetitive from what you've already heard from them before. Ozzy sounds kind of bored, honestly. I mean, I don't know if it was just, he was just there for the check or what. I don't know if it's age, but he just sounds bored. It doesn't really sound like he's into it at all. But it's not a bad record. You know, Tony Iommi, Geezer, I mean, you get those guys together and it's going to be at least halfway decent. So not a bad record, but I have it at number 15. Okay, next record. All right, so we're going to kind of start going into the Tony Martin era a little bit here. Once again, Tony Martin's a fantastic vocalist. Some of you are like, who? I don't even know who this is. Yeah, they actually had another vocalist other than Ozzy and Dio. Tony Martin was incredible, and to me, he sounds a little bit like Dio, but he can hit some higher notes than Dio really did. Dio was kind of in his pocket. He was an amazing singer, but Tony Martin, I feel like, as far as range, was their best singer. And I know that kind of sounds crazy, and you know, it's like, oh my God, you're gonna say he's better than Ozzy and Dio? Well, as far as range, I feel like, yeah. But amazing singer. So at number 14, I have 1987's Eternal Idol. And Eternal Idol is a great record. The first one to feature Tony Martin. Some of the songs here, The Shining, Ancient Warrior, Hard Life to Love, Glory Ride, Born to Lose, Nightmare, Scarlet Pimpernel, Lost Forever, and Eternal Idol. It kind of sounds like a Dio era album. I mean, I feel like it kind of picked up where the last Dio album left off. Great songs, good production on it. I mean, I think at this point it's 1987, so 80s production kind of had that sound to it, so it might sound a little bit dated, but you still have Tony's great riffs. I mean, you know it's him when you hear him. This is a great record. I don't see anything wrong with this album. It's very enjoyable. If you haven't checked out Eternal Idol or any album with Tony Martin, you definitely should. Don't go into it expecting the Ozzy stuff, because it's not the same. You know, some people are like, oh, that's not really Black Sabbath, but I mean it is. I mean, it is Black Sabbath, but just a little bit different. So nothing but respect for this record. I think it's great. You should check out Eternal Idol at number 14. So the next album is 1994's Cross Purposes. I was tempted to put this album a little bit higher, but some great songs. Eyewitness, Cross of Thorns is great. Psychophobia, Virtual Death, Immaculate Deception. To me, this album was a little bit darker, a little bit doomier. Not by too much, but I felt like it was a little bit more classic Sabbath. You know, he had Geezer back in the band, who had left for a few albums, so just something about putting Iommi and Geezer together, man. They just have that sound that's unstoppable. So Cross Purposes is a great album, and like I said, I have it about almost halfway up the list, so it's definitely not bad, and I feel like you should check it out. These Tony Martin albums are kind of hard to find. I mean, I think you can get them on eBay and stuff, but they didn't get a lot of publicity or distribution in the States. People just kind of seem to be focused more on what Ozzy was doing than what Black Sabbath was doing. I mean, with all the lineup changes and some questionable albums for some people, people just tended to ignore this era of Black Sabbath, which is really a shame. But I think as the years have gone on, more people have kind of given more attention to this era. So maybe there will be a reunion one day between the Tonys, and maybe they'll go out and tour and do some of these songs, because I think they would be great. So Cross Purposes at number 13. All right, so number 12, we're going to go into another Tony Martin album. This is Headless Cross. And I know that there are a lot of people that are fans of this era. They put Headless Cross kind of at the top of this list as far as this era of the band. Headless Cross is great. It's got a lot of atmosphere. It is a little bit doomier, a little bit darker, but not by too much. It's not, The Devil You Know or anything like that. Not quite that heavy, but it's a great record. I mean, once again, it tends to get looked over, and as far as the Ozzy era. But Headless Cross is amazing. I think people should check it out. But Headless Cross is at number 12. All right, so number 11, I'm gonna go with Never Say Die. A lot of people hate this album, and I don't get why. I think that it's way better than Technical Ecstasy. I've always liked it. I love the songs on it. Never Say Die, Johnny Blade, I love that song. Junior's Eyes, A Hard Road is great. The last track, Swinging the Chain, also features Bill Ward. So this was the last album from the classic era to feature Ozzy until they did 13. So it's kind of weird that the last song on this album doesn't even feature Ozzy at all. But yeah, I know this album gets a lot of hate, and a lot of people have this at the bottom of their list next to Forbidden. I don't get it, man. I think it's a good record. I do think some of their Beatles influence did kind of work their way into this. It's not the heaviest, not the darkest, not the most evil or anything like that, but it's fairly straightforward. I think it's a great record. I love Never Say Die, man. What can I say? So number 11 for Never Say Die. All right, so number 10, I'm gonna go with 1990's Tear. And this is one I've been listening to a lot lately, and this one crept its way up the list. So we're halfway up the list now, and I've got a Tony Martin album sitting right in the middle. But Tear's a great record, and I think that the song that really sold it for me is Valhalla. And if you've never heard the song Valhalla, it's amazing. There are some tracks after that. I feel like that maybe some of the tracks could be switched around. I feel like Valhalla should be the very last track on the album. So I guess if you have digital, you can swap those around or something. But I feel like that's just an epic way to end that record, just by switching a few things around. But Tear's an amazing record, man. Give it a try. Go to YouTube, listen to it. You can listen to all the Tony Martin albums on YouTube. So my top Tony Martin record is Tear at number 10. So next record, number 9 is 1992's, find it here, Dehumanizer. So this was the last one to feature Ronnie James Dio until they did The Devil You Know. This is one they got back together with him in 1992. It was the Mob Rules lineup. Got back together, and this is an angry record, man. This is heavy and dark. Probably one of the heaviest albums that they had ever done. I mean, Ronnie just sounds pissed through this thing. You got Geezer and Vinny Appice on drums. Great record, man. The song Time Machine was featured in the first Wayne's World movie soundtrack. You have Computer God, After All the Dead, TV Crimes, Master of Insanity, Sins of the Father, Too Late. The song I is incredible. I mean, that's one of the best Sabbath songs ever. But Dehumanizer, they did this album and this tour, and then they broke up again, and then Tony Martin comes back. So it was just kind of in the shuffle, man, with all the lineup changes. It was just, people didn't know what to think. It wasn't Ozzy, so it was just hard for them to kind of keep a stable lineup. And but this is a fantastic record nonetheless, so I think very highly of it. So Dehumanizer at number 9. So at number 8, I have the album that started it all, the original Black Sabbath. And I hate that I don't have this thing higher, but there are just other albums that I like a lot more. But this record is iconic, man. The first song, the song Black Sabbath, is still to this day one of the creepiest and heaviest and evil songs ever. It's funny, I was thinking about this, of all the death metal and black metal and all the brutal heavy stuff and evil stuff I listen to, this song still gives me the creeps over a lot of that other stuff. But they started out 1970 when they released this. They were a blues band, and they wrote the song Black Sabbath, and it became a hit in their live set, and so they kind of it was just kind of the direction that they went. Some other great songs on here. The Wizard is great. It features Ozzy on harmonica, which is kind of weird to think he would do something other than just sing. Behind the Wall of Sleep, NIB, Wicked World, A Bit of Finger, Sleeping Village, and Warning. So this is a great album. I think they recorded this in like just a couple of days. And it does kind of feel like that, like they just kind of got in the studio and maybe played a live set, and it came out amazing. So, not my favorite Sabbath record, but an absolute classic. And I mean, this basically started heavy metal, and especially doom metal. It basically comes all from this album right here. So, iconic album cover, great stuff here. Very first Sabbath album, 1970. So. That is at number 8. So at number 7, we have Sabotage. And I feel like that this is one of the most aggressive or heaviest of the Ozzy era. This came out in 1975. This featured Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, which is just, heavy as heck. Megalomania, Thrill of It All, Super Czar, Am I Going Insane, and The Writ. All great stuff here. And I believe they actually just re-released this as a special edition, a huge box set. I know that they're going through and kind of reissuing all the Ozzy albums in these box sets with all kinds of photos and remixes and stuff like that. But Sabotage is a great record. I mean, I think it's one of their strongest. So that's kind of why I thought Technical Ecstasy that followed this up was so different, because I mean, this one kind of just stomps you, and then they sort of mellowed on the next one. But Sabotage is a great record, and I have it at number 7. All right, so number 6, I have Mob Rules. And there are a lot of people that have this ranked a lot higher than I do. My number 6 and number 5, which I'm going to kind of talk about together here a little bit. This was the second album to feature Ronnie James Dio. This was a great record. Turn Up the Night, Voodoo, Sign of the Southern Cross, hands down one of the best Sabbath songs ever, regardless of vocalist. The title track, Mob Rules, is another one of my favorites. It just plain rocks. Country Girl, Slipping Away, Falling Off the Edge of the World is great, and over. So Mob Rules is excellent. It came out in 1981. So as I said, I'm going to talk about my 6 and 5 together. So my number 5 is Heaven and Hell. A lot of people have this ranked at number 1, and rightfully so. This is an incredible record, the first one to feature Ronnie James Dio. There are not a lot of bands that can change vocalists, especially one as iconic as Ozzy Osbourne, and still put out something awesome. I mean, you can think of something like Back in Black after Highway to Hell. You know, a change in vocalist there, and it's just amazing. So they didn't miss a step, man. It's different from the Ozzy era. It's a little bit more rock based, and you know, I kind of almost hear a little bit more Deep Purple in there a little bit. But this is a great album as well. Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, one of my top 3 Sabbath songs of all time. Lady Evil, Heaven and Hell, Wishing Well, Die Young, Walk Away, Lonely is the Word. Just a fantastic record, front to back. So I'm talking about Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules together. They're a year apart from each other. And I feel like, not that they're the exact same, but it could almost be a double album. You know, same producer, it's just got, they both kind of have the same vibe. So I was kind of struggling with which one I should put on top, but to me, Heaven and Hell just barely edges it out. But if there's any album other than the Ozzy era that you should check out, it's this one right here for sure. And so hopefully this will open up some doors for you to kind of check out some of their other stuff. But I think that the angels on the cover reminds me of the Angel Baby on Van Halen's 1984. Maybe that's like a couple of these angels got it on and had a kid, and it ended up on 1984. But yeah, Heaven and Hell at number 5. Okay, so number 4, I have Volume 4. A lot of other people would have this ranked at number 1 as well, and I love this record. Volume 4 is awesome. I think a lot of the songs on here tend to get overlooked. It does feature Snowblind, which is kind of the one that kind of is the most popular from this record, but it's not even my favorite song here. I mean, you have Will's Confusion, Tomorrow's Dream, I love, Changes, Supernaut, Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, St. Vitus Dance, I love, and Under the Sun is one of the heaviest songs they ever did. It's just got a stomp to it that's great. So awesome front to back. This one was a little bit more diverse than maybe what they had done before. They were kind of starting to branch out as far as not progressive, not really that way, but just kind of starting to incorporate more ideas into it. So this was a fantastic record. Love Volume 4, and that is at number 4. All right, so number 3, their most famous album of all time, Paranoid. And Paranoid right there. So yeah, this came out the same year as the first album, 1970. That album cover is just something else. I don't really know if that's a LARPer or what that's supposed to be. But anyway, it's iconic nonetheless, just based on the songs on here. You have War Pigs, the title track, Paranoid, Planet Caravan, Iron Man, Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Rat Salad, which features kind of a drum solo from Bill Ward, sorry, and Fairies Wear Boots. So incredible album right here. I mean, this has so many classics on it. I think a lot of people, have said that they're kind of tired of this record. They've heard it so many times that they never really have to listen to it again. It never gets old for me. I love it every time. But then again, some people may have it at number 1 just because it's what they're most familiar with. I feel like it deserves the status that it has. But for me, I have it at number 3. So awesome, classic, deserves every bit of praise that it gets. Okay, so my number 2, this one kind of crept up for me. I originally had Paranoid at number 2, but my number 2 album from Black Sabbath is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I love every song on here. This, to me, you still had kind of the heavier, doomier stuff, but you had a little bit more experimentation. You had some psychedelic elements in there. Great songs. You had the title track. National Acrobat is great. Sabra Cadabra, Killing Yourself to Live is excellent. Who Are You has kind of that spooky synthesizer going through it, but it's still very doomy. Looking for Today is an amazing song, and my favorite song from this record is Spiral Architect. That's an amazing song as well. So I love the album cover. I mean, I need to get a t-shirt with that on it. But for 1974, that cover I'm sure caused a bit of controversy. But this is a great record. I love Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and it's just barely my, it it could be number one, but it's just very, very close. So for my number one Black Sabbath record of all time, there's only one that I haven't talked about, and it's this one right here. Master of Reality. I said it before, if you watched our Doom episode, I just praised Master of Reality. I love that album. You know, you got Sweet Leaf, After Forever, which I feel like After Forever tends to get left off of. You know, there are a lot of like compilations of, you know, the best of Black Sabbath and blah blah blah, and they always leave off After Forever, and I don't know why, because it's one of their best songs. Children of the Grave is such a dark, heavy song. I mean, and then at the very end of it, you get like the Jason Voorhees thing where it's like cha 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 cha. Lord of This World is great, has a good stomp to it. Solitude is sort of like Planet Caravan, very chilled out and mellow. And Into the Void is just amazing as well. So Master of Reality, I mean, that's my number one Sabbath album, just barely beating out Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. So that's my top 20. I mean, once again, starting from the bottom to the top: Forbidden, 7-star, Born Again, Technical Ecstasy, The Devil You Know, 13, Eternal Idol, Cross Purposes, Headless Cross, Never Say Die, Tear, Dehumanizer, Black Sabbath, Sabotage, Mob Rules, Heaven and Hell, Volume 4, Paranoid, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and Master of Reality. Not a bad album in the whole bunch, and that's saying something for that many albums. You would think they had a stinker in there, but in all honesty, they don't. So I guess my point in all this is to say that if you're a Sabbath with Ozzy purist and you've never even bothered to listen to anything else and you just can't accept it, go listen to those albums. Give them a try. Don't expect the Ozzy era. They're all great albums, no matter who the vocalist is, no matter what the lineup is. Just remember, Tony Iommi is the riff master. He's written every good riff ever. You know, it's gonna be great. Open your mind up a little bit to more things and check out all of their discography. So we'll see you next time right here on the Magma Chamber. You can follow us over on Instagram at magma_chamber_metal, and you can email us at magmachambermetal@gmail.com and reply to this video. Let us know what your top Sabbath albums are. I mean, do you agree? Do you disagree? You know, what's your favorite Tony Martin record? What's your favorite Dio record? What's your favorite Ozzy record? Let me know. What do you think? So check us out. We'll see you next time right here on the Magma Chamber, and until next time, keep headbanging.